Sound check, 1, 2.
This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
We get it, that's the past, but we need to focus more on having fun and being goofy, being ourselves.
Welcome to the 217 Recovery Podcast, 30th of April, the last day, 2020. My name is Corey Winfield. Joining me tonight on the podcast and over the phone is a guy who I think joined me on the first ever 217 Recovery Podcast. Let's give it up for Rob Larson. Rob?
Corey, what's up, brother?
Nothing, man. You kind of scared me. I thought you hung up. Thought you maybe had cold feet.
Nah, man. I've been looking forward to this all day, man. I really wanted to catch up with you and talk about what's been going on with you, what's been going on with me, and how life's been treating you, and what's been progressing, and how everything's been going with you, So I'm really glad that we got together on this, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking forward to it as well. And for people, if you're just tuning in, Rob, like I kind of mentioned, Rob started the 217 Recovery Podcast as co-host. He started with me. He was there at the beginning. He saw the sweat and the tears of building a website from a phone app and picking a logo and getting media sponsorship to the UFAM rally last year. I mean, you were there for the beginning of it. And then some things kind of happened in your life, and you went kind of a different direction, but you kind of had to do that to be where you're at now. How much time you got sober right now? Let's just bring that out in the open.
I'd have to look at a calendar, but I more or less celebrated 60 days about, I want to say at least a week and a half ago. So, technically, yeah, still in early recovery again. But I'm where I need to be right now, and it feels really good, I was up in northern Michigan, obviously, with you, and you and I have always had a really good rapport, and have a lot of experiences in common, and you and I really clicked well, and unfortunately, not for all the listeners really want to get into my whole life story or anything, but there were some things that I had to take care of downstate, and that was always kind of weighing on me, and it was definitely affecting my mood and my outlook, and kind of led me back to a relapse, which I don't want to see. I saw it coming, but in the back of my mind, it was really bugging me and really driving me crazy. So I kind of set myself up for failure so that I guess I would have to deal with this in one way or another,
Mm-hmm. And that's common in early recovery, is the self-sabotage. And you don't even realize you're doing it sometimes. You look back at it and go, yeah, what was I thinking? Like you could have got on the bus and you could have left, without the relapse. But when you're in early recovery, when there's so many years in a row and so many days in a row of doing that, doing the stuff that you're doing to numb the pain and to escape, that's sitting there the whole time on your shoulder going, hey, I'm over here. Hey, I'm over here. Hey, I'm over here. Hey, how about now? Hey, how about now? And the opportunity comes, you're feeling that way. It's hard to say no. And, unfortunately that happened, but it happened for a reason, Rob, and you're not dead. Thank God. That's something that, we had talked before we started the podcast. That's something that I was really worried about. And I didn't want to have that on my conscience. And this is something that was really hard for me too, and something that I'm still learning how to do. But as we just kind of talked before the podcast, you'd said, it sounds like you're doing better at handling stuff and getting, whether it be good praise, bad, whatever. It's something you have to handle. And something I've just been learning, though, is to not act on emotions, because when I do that, it's bad. And humans, that's our problem, is we act on our emotions. If someone comes over and slaps your kid, you're going to go slap them. That's the emotion part of it. And I don't know, maybe that's a bad analogy, but I'm just saying, like,
oh no, I mean, actually, you put it mildly. If somebody slapped my kid, I'd probably do worse than slap them back. But you make a really, really valid point there. That's what makes us human is our emotions. And from what you were talking about earlier and how you had explained it, it was a technique that, and for the listeners out there, I've been in a PTSD program at the Battle Creek. Does it really matter if I say where I'm at or not?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. You can, but.
Well, Battle Creek anyway, the PTSD program. And, before I started getting into that whole mix, it's really brought a lot of things to light for me as far as handling situations, and realizing that, and this has been said so many times, it never really sunk in, but really the only thing that I can control is how I respond to situations, and learn how to process things in the right way. We can't control what other people do, think, say, react, respond, whatever. The only thing that we can do really is control how we respond to situations, and that's what, when you were talking to me about a couple of different things and you would explain how you handled it, I was like, wow, that's really, that's a constructive way of handling it, because in a lot of situations, people just get bent the hell out of shape about this, that, whatever. And I mean, okay, that's an emotion. Yeah, right. It's okay to get bent out of shape about things. Mm-hmm. How you handle it is really up to you, So, and that, that's something that I just noticed, when you were explaining the situations that had happened and how you handled it, and I was like, and I keyed right in on that. I was like, because this PTSD program really, first of all, has helped me realize that, wow, a lot of these things that are in my head aren't just in my head. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that other veterans are going through. Like, it manifests, whether it's PTSD, substance use disorder, bipolar, depression, anxiety, all of this stuff, it manifests in actions and behaviors. And I'm seeing a lot of other veterans that have had maybe similar experiences or totally different ones, but their PTSD manifests the exact same way that my actions have. And I'm like, holy crap. I feel, for lack of better words, I feel at home. I feel like these people understand, and there's no judgment, Mm-hmm. And it's like, just like, one drug isn't better or worse than another. Addiction is addiction. Well, from the aspect of post-traumatic stress, one event isn't better or worse than another. You can't really judge it like that. It's like, it's something that affects an individual and their outlook, their behavior, their outlook, and how they respond to situations. And, substance use can also come into that, and does come into that a great deal, as far as changing our behavior, our outlook, and how we handle situations,
So can you describe for me how you feel, like, when that moment, like you said PTSD, and you said that the moments, like, you can't go, oh, you were never in Nam, you don't know what it's like. Well, like you said, it doesn't matter what the event is. It matters that, hey, it happened, and this is what you're going through. Like, what is the feeling? Is it like anxiety? Is it just I want out of here now? Is it?
It's both. It's sorry to cut you off, man.
You're good.
Oh, it's both of those. It's a lot of different things. Like, and the thing of it is, Corey, there's probably situations where that you've run in or bad experiences that you've had where you may have a form of, because I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I can't, well, not at least not yet, I'm not, but I can't diagnose something like that, but I can tell just by talking with people that may have an anxiety disorder, depression, or PTSD, but it's just an event that changes, whether it's a car exploding in front of you or a natural disaster or combat or sexual trauma or anything that, really affects you. For me, you were asking, what happens. For me, it manifests, the first thing that comes out is anger, because they don't debrief you when you get out of the military on how to respond to certain situations. They train you on kill, watch your buddy's back, kill, watch your six, kill, watch who's coming around the corner, kill, and this stuff's like just ingrained into you. So coming back into the civilian world was difficult for me because I'll get into that later, but you were asking like certain things. As far as what manifests first, it's usually anger, because that is a secondary emotion that's based off of fear. Okay. And for a lot of people, it can be, and for me, low self-esteem, anger, sadness, guilt, and shame are a couple of big ones, and like I said, I see a lot of other vets, that are struggling with the same thing. And anger is probably one of the biggest ones, because that's what they drilled into our heads, that it's not, a situation happens, let's sit down and talk about how you feel. I mean, it's so, your first reaction is, shoot, ask questions later, not ask questions first, then hopefully shoot later if your own head hasn't gotten blown off. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, and it helps being able to recognize a lot of these things that I've been struggling with. It's not just me making it up, and it's not just in my head. There's a reason why I've handled things in the past the way that I have. And, doing drugs and drinking, again, it's said so many times, is a symptom, not necessarily, I guess you could kind of say it's a secondary response or whatever, just like anger. It's a symptom of something else going on, Yeah. And, I think, for a lot of people, it may not be anger, it may be sadness, it may be self-esteem, it may be, like I said, just feelings of guilt and shame that you can't get over. I was talking to a buddy of mine here the other day. I won't say his name, but, he was talking about he had to, he shot an Iraqi woman that was pregnant, and he didn't know what was going on as far as if she had a bomb strapped to her or what, because he saw this bulge, and he had said to her, in Arabic, stop, halt, get back, stop, halt, get back, and in English, and they know English, what stop means, get back, we were over there long enough, they knew all this, so, and he yelled it to her, and fired a warning shot across her, and she